Welcome to the Don't Die Rusty podcast. I'm Rick Hansen, and we will be talking about living, not dying. We're all in this adventure together, and we will be interviewing people who inspire us to live our best lives. People with various backgrounds who will walk us down the trails they took to not die rusty. Adventure in life are many things to many people. It could be a sprint or an endurance race, but with each adventure, we become a better version of us. We hope you keep chasing those dreams, being the best you, and of course, don't die rusty. Well, hello, Don't Die Rusty fans. We are here with another great episode of the Don't Die Rusty podcast with my co host, Ricky Bruley,
How's it going, everybody?
and our special guest, Kyle Kraft.
What's going on?
How you doing, man?
How's things? You're in California, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm down in SoCal, Orange County, enjoying the super hot summer heat out here. It's like 80 degrees, really toasty. It's I could complain about a lot right now, but yeah, that's where I'm at.
I'm going to let you introduce yourself. You race Baja truck, like the trophy truck division, correct?
Yes, yeah, that's correct. My name's Kyle Kraft, obviously, as we've stated. I've been racing professionally for the last 8 years, I'd say. I'm 28 years old, born and raised down in SoCal. I work for my father. He owns a pipeline business. So that's kind of the main gig, and racing's the hobby that also happens to pay. Very fortunate there. And yeah, that's me.
And you're in the trophy truck division. That's the highest. Is that the highest
Yeah.
division?
Yep, trophy truck is the absolute top. It's the most unlimited form of racing in the entire world. No other racing has the unlimitations, I guess is the word you could say, that we do. If you can afford it, you can do it.
Because, and it's like, I mean, I've watched on different documentaries and stuff, and even shows about the Baja 1000, uh, the Dakar.
Yep.
Is that is it called a rally or a race?
Yeah, that's the Dakar Rally.
And I see you guys flying through. I mean, I wish I could drive that well because you guys jumping over jumps and hitting ruts and going here and there is just amazing to me how fast you guys can drive. And and you have most of your services in your pickup as you're jumping this stuff. So
Uh-huh.
how do you keep this stuff strapped down while you're doing this?
The sport has really evolved over the years, and I think that's one of the most beautiful parts about our sport. You look at a lot of other forms of racing, and back in the '80s, in maybe '90s, the NASCARs were doing what they're doing today. Like, how is that possible? And
Yeah.
obviously, I mean, that's a little bit of a stretch. Technology's improving, things are getting better. They've put more restrictions on what these things can do. F1, all of it, but our sport is truly progressing. I mean, and that's kind of the downside to it as well, because with those sort of technological advances comes an increase in money, and I think we're kind of starting to see that a little bit in our sport. That the top 1% are getting a little bit of a breakout pack, and I've been very fortunate to be a part of a top 1% team right now. We're in a all-wheel drive Mason trophy truck. And if you're not in an all-wheel drive truck these days, you're not even really competing for that top 10 spot, at least down in Mexico.
Yeah.
The stateside stuff is uh, it's not as competitive anymore. With all the restrictions that like BLM and the government have been putting on, and of course there's always the local neighborhoods and the developers wanting to develop these areas. But yeah, down in Mexico, it's wild. It's run what you brung. It's unlimited racing, and these cars are simply amazing. I mean, every time I go get in one, I'm always blown away with what it can do, and I've been in it a lot.
And well, since we're talking about Mexico and Baja racing, it was. Is it scary? I mean, I was watching, and they say you guys go down. Yeah, you you kind of scout out the trail a little
Yep.
bit,
Yep.
but the Mexicans then, when the race is getting ready to start, they start putting trying to help you guys wreck. Is that true?
Uh, it it was more true back in the day for sure, and they're not trying to wreck us. I think that's a really common misconception of what they're trying to do. They're so excited to see us. I mean, even pre-running, you would think it's like most people's race days. The fans are out there cheering us on, wanting stickers, autographs, whatever we got in the car by chance. No, they're building jumps or some sort of ditch, and they're trying to see who can make it. And they're not engineers by any stretch of the imagination. So sometimes, so the thing with Mexico that I think separates every other racing that we have is we're able to pre-run. We're able to get really, really, really good notes. We're there for a couple weeks at a time trying to get competitive edges and fine lines. I mean, you're racing from virtual checkpoint to virtual checkpoint, not so much staying on a race course like you are anywhere else.
Yeah.
We could go 15 different ways as long as we get to that next point. So they're trying to find a spot that's easy for them to access because we're in some very remote areas, and sometimes they build some things that are not doable. So that's kind of that. But I'll tell you this: you have a problem down there. You break something on your car. You have a flat tire. You flip. It, if they're there, they're helping you.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
And
it's amazing.
because and then I so you run with you have two people in the vehicle, one's a navigator, one's a driver,
Yep.
correct? Because
Most classes, yes.
because you would not want me as a navigator because one time we were in Utah, Salt Lake, and went to this taco place, burrito place, and my friends set me up with Google Maps, and I said you need to turn, and I'm the navigator. I said you need to turn there. So they said you need to talk a little earlier, and I said, well, the dot's not moving, and I didn't push go, so my navigation skills at that time weren't very good, but I I had a I had a I was talking this is what I was going to ask you at the end of this thing, but I was going to say uh one of my friends said, "You know, you talk all this don't die rusty stuff, but you need to go do it with somebody." So, I'm asked sometime would you take me for a ride?
Absolutely.
That would be
Absolutely.
so fun.
That's I get a lot of people that ask me, and any given chance I can, I take them out. I mean, I don't know if this statistic is still true, but I believe 5 years ago there had been more people that have been to outer space than been in a trophy truck.
Really?
And yep. So and again, I don't know if that's still true, but about 5 years ago that was the case, and it's an undescribable experience. It feels like you're crashing and alive at the same time. It's a surreal experience. The words don't describe what you're doing in that car. It's a very controlled chaos, and it never stops. From the moment you strap in to the moment you get out, it's it's mind altering.
Cuz here's the deal, Don't Die Rusty is about living your life to the fullest. And I can't imagine the adrenaline rush of being in a trophy truck and driving that fast. And I that is so talented to me. Like I said, you're going over the jumps, the ruts, with all the other stuff you go through. I mean, I saw you had a breakdown last weekend. And you're sitting, was that right?
Yeah,
And you're sitting in your pickup. I saw that video. That's kind of
yeah.
funny.
Hey,
But
the sport doesn't have enough comedians. It needs more drama, so I try to bring it.
well, that's with archery too, and we try to do the same thing.
Exactly.
Because I think I think that's part of our culture these days. We don't laugh at ourselves enough, and people are too serious with themselves. And
Yep.
and this is like, I want to live life to the fullest. I don't need drama.
No, I mean, you could be having the worst day ever in a race car, and that's better than most people will ever get to experience. So just smile. You're living someone's dream. You're doing what you told yourself you would do 15 years ago when you had no clue how to get there. You can't be upset. Have fun with it.
Yeah, because when did you know that you wanted to do this?
Oh boy, if we're gonna go down that road, that's a story. We can do it.
Yeah.
So I've I was a really big BJ Baldwin fan throughout my high school, and I've always loved driving. My dad, me and him would go to the go kart track, and I would do my best, and I was setting top times at the local go kart track or whatever, and then I think we had a golf cart out at the river that I was just always out in, trying to go do off roading with it, just dumb stuff as a kid, and I was infatuated by it. I really wanted to do it. We'd go out to the Parker 425 a couple times, and I'd watch those guys race, and it was always so amazing. And then when I started like really being on the internet, I guess, watching YouTube, and you're watching these trucks and buggies go through 4 or 5 foot whoops, and they're just planted still. It was something amazing. And then I guess when I really started looking at it, and I started driving, my own truck that my dad got me when I was 16. I was out doing dumb stuff in it on the weekends, trying to impress my buddies or, the local girls or whatever it was. And that was right when like BJ Baldwin had started doing the Recoil series. And that was just amazing. All my friends, we would skip school to go watch, the premiere of it or something,
Yep.
when it comes out
Yep.
and that was kind of what really got me in, and I really loved it. I wanted to be it. And then when I was about what is that, 18? I was 18, and my dad's best friend at the time, Bob Pecoy, he was a good friend of Cameron Steele's. He's another off-road racer, and so they invite my dad on this Ford Raptor trip where they go to all the missions down the coast of the peninsula, and it's a 7 day deal. It's a bunch of families, but a bunch of like high profile off-road racers, and then some randoms can come and get to experience Baja that way. So my whole family goes down, and it was a blast. My dad fell in love with Mexico again. He was a big surfer back in the day, and he kind of stopped, when things got bad there for a little
Yep.
bit, and we never got to go. But being with that group, they're very safe. They know the routes, they know people, and that's really what you need in Mexico, is to know the right people. So he falls in love with it, and a little bit goes by, and he goes out and buys a Brenthel buggy. It was a pre-runner, and he starts helping Cameron steal pre-run. He wants to get a little more involved, so he's just doing the pre-running down in Mexico, not racing, just helping with the notes and finding lines. Well, he really falls in love with it, and I'm sitting on the sideline still at the time, going like, "You're living my dream, dude. Like, help me." So, a little bit more forward, he buys his own race truck, and he can't see very well. But he loves the sport, so he's a navigator for his own truck, and he hires or has this Bob Pecoy guy drive for them. Childhood best friends, so they start racing under Cameron Steele's program, and then a little bit goes by, and they kind of stop. And during this time, I'm meeting some people in the community, a little bit, helping my dad, on the pits, and helping change tires or whatever when they come in. And I met this kid named James Dean. James's father, Pat Dean, it was kind of a pioneer in the sport, and specifically his grandpa was. The best of the best have come out of their shop. Rob
Hmm.
McCachran, B.J. Baldwin, the list goes on and on of like the OG racers. So James and me were about 19, 20 at the time, and James calls me up and he goes, "Hey, you want to navigate for me?" And I'm like, "Yeah." I jumped all over it. Let's do this.
Yeah.
And it my first race was the KC Lights Midnight Race out in State Line, Nevada. And we go out, haven't even tested in this thing, don't know anything about it. Show up race day, and uh, we were like 20th off the line, and I think we had passed every car within the first 30 miles or
Mm.
something ridiculous. Like just blazing through it. It was super scary, but like super exhilarating at the same time. And we ended up breaking apart or whatever. So this goes on for like another 2 years of me and James riding together, and I'm driving out to Vegas every other weekend helping him prep the car, and it was a really great experience. Still, his grandpa was like, coach teaching us how to prep things and do things. So Our career goes on, and basically it was either me and James were gonna overall that race, and be drunk and showered by the time second place finished, or we weren't finishing.
Mhm. Mhm.
Well, so we finally end up having a pretty good wreck. Actually, it was at the same race I was out at this weekend. We put it into a ditch, chasing down first in the dust, and my dad goes, "You're done. You're not riding anymore. You're done. I'm buying you a truck." I'm like, "Phew, well, okay, let's go." So he buys me my own spec trophy truck. And for those who don't know what a spec trophy truck is, it's a completely full blown trophy truck with just a normal LS3 motor in it. It has to be from the factory, GM factory, 525 horsepower only, but it's a full trophy truck, everything else. So me and James, we raced together at this point. I'm a driver, he's a driver, and we would just kind of take turns. I would use his pit support, and my dad's obviously floating everything at the time. And this kind of goes on, and we'd had really really great success. Um, and then I think my dad still was floating Cameron Steele's team at the time. He became a big partner in that, and so that was kind of like firing me up a little bit. Like, my dad's paying for this other guy to race. Like, I need to show him, like, you don't need to be paying for anybody else.
Mhm.
Yep.
Mhm.
I don't know if that's public. Whatever. Fuck it. Cameron
Yeah.
can hear this. He's still racing. Um, so I was really trying to show my dad that we could do everything Cameron could do, and we were doing great. I think my first season, we had only DNF'd one race. Every other race we overalled in a
Oh,
spec truck, which was kind of unheard of. Like, we were beating full blown trophy trucks with my little spec truck.
That's
So we had a
cool.
lot of great success, and then yeah, I just well, I guess if we want to just keep going down the story, you want to go through like all the racing? Fuck
Yeah,
it.
man.
Yeah.
Do it.
we
All
don't.
right,
Whatever you want to talk about, man.
perfect. So meanwhile, while I'm racing, I uh, I was working one day, and I think we were actually getting ready for a race. The Baja 500. It was 2019 Baja 500, and about 3 weeks before this race, I get a FaceTime from a 702 number. That's weird. Vegas. Who could it be? Slide it up, open, and it's BJ Baldwin.
Mm.
I tried my best not to fanboy. My hands were sweaty. Like, it was like my childhood hero is just FaceTiming me right now. Like, this
That's
is amazing. And he calls me up and he goes, "Hey, I heard you can navigate." And I'm like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Well, great. I just fired my last navigator. You're going to be my navigator. You come to the 500. Let's see what you got." And it was a little bit
Cool.
more of an interview than that. He goes into
yeah.
a lot of stuff, and I basically lied about the whole thing, saying I had way more experience than I really did because I wanted this opportunity.
No,
Mhm.
definitely.
But it was one of those fake it till you make it things, and I wasn't gonna let him down. That's my childhood hero, and
Yep.
I wasn't gonna be known as a liar. So I put in a lot of work, and me and BJ did not have a good first 3 years. He was still under some old management. He had some great guys on the team, but it just wasn't really, the truck really wasn't getting put together the right way. The team was kind of falling apart. He had been on a losing streak at that point for like 5 6 years, and he was like he was the man in off road
Yeah, yeah.
racing. If he showed up to a race for 5 or 6 years, it was who's going to get second now.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And my goal when I came on the team was to put him back on that spot. I wanted everyone to know him as the guy I saw him for. So post COVID, his dad had laid off the entire team, and he had told them that he was going to kind of stop funding the team. And so we kind of had to buckle down, and he was looking around like, who's going to take this over? Who's going to put this team? He didn't know what to do. And I was only 22 at this time, but my dad's a business owner. I have great respect for him. I've watched him run businesses. Why can't I do it? So I stepped up. I made sure everyone that was still remotely on the team at that point was gone. I was going to start completely fresh. I didn't want any moochers. I wanted performance, and it took a couple years. But I put him back on the box. I put him with my own prep team that I had on my truck because I knew they were trustworthy. I moved the truck down here. I moved everything out of his shop down to me, and I ran his team for 4 years. Ended up getting him his eighth championship in 2022,
Wow.
and yeah, the rest was kind of history from there.
That's cool.
Well,
That's
and you
super.
know, and it's interesting that you say what you I mean, talk about the how this all came into fruition. But Ricky and I talk about this in most of our podcasts. It's interesting that you built the team with the people you trust because those are the people that are going to help you.
Yep.
They're not gonna help you just because they're in front of you. They'll talk up good about you when they're not around you too. And the
Yep.
trustworthiness is a big deal in all situations, and that's what this is showing too.
Nothing you do is a one man sport, and I don't care if your sport is a one man sport. There's a team behind you that got you to that point, and you have to surround yourself with people. You can't do it all. You don't know everything, so you if you got 10 guys, you probably got two good ones, and you keep that 10 group moving. You pull out two, and you keep them, and you just keep building,
Yeah.
and you don't stop until you've achieved your goals, and you're solid all the way around you.
Yeah,
And I don't really accept failure. I'm very hard to deal with when it comes to racing. I'm very hard to deal with when it comes to work outside. Super personal guy. I like everybody, but when it comes down to something I'm passionate about, I expect greatness, and I keep people around me that hold those same standards.
Mm-hmm.
yep.
We're not showing up for second place. We're not showing up for a finish. I'm showing up to beat everyone, and we put together something special that year, and I've kept most of those guys around me through all of my various teams I've been on. I think that's probably a big reason teams pick me at this point is I'm a pretty complete package, and I got a lot of great guys that back me.
Well, as the famous Ricky Bobby would say, if you're not first, you're last.
I live my life by that.
Yeah,
There
man.
we go.
Yeah, love it. Love it. That's just amazing. It's so cool to hear that story about how you were able to. I mean, that's got to be a good feeling. That's really got to be a huge confidence booster when you're like, man, I did that for like this guy that I followed for so long, and that really inspired me to get into this. And then what a cool dude too to like bring you in under his wing and put trust
100%.
in you, and then and then give you that opportunity to prove yourself. That's just so cool. What a cool story.
100%. And me and him, have since had our differences, and I've had to move on,
Mhm.
especially after flipping my truck.
Yeah.
Uh, but I would never say a bad thing about the things he's let me done, and everyone along this journey has definitely led me to a point. And a lot of doors have been opened. I had to rise to the occasion every time and fulfill those shoes, but the doors were not opened by me.
Mhm.
So I'm very thankful.
That's cool.
Well, and we talk about like when you have a true dream of doing something, you you don't just manifest it, but you create your manifestation of going in that direction. You create those relationships that keep on building so you can get to your dream. If you truly want it, you can manifest it by putting yourselves in the right position. And it sounds like that's what you've been doing.
No, and that's exactly it. I was told that my whole life from when I was younger, but I didn't really believe it. You don't believe it. And then I finally did it, and it was like, I need to dream bigger. Like this, we're done. I'm 24. We're done. No, no, we got to raise the stakes.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm at now. I've got new dreams and new aspirations, but it it was a huge confidence booster to everything I've done. Hard work pays off every time.
You said something about dreams and aspirations. Tell us a little bit about that.
When you've achieved like your only dream you've ever had at 24, it's a little bit of a letdown. It's huge in confidence, right? Because like you've done it and you did it so young, but now it's like where do you go next?
Yeah.
And so looking back, I think I would have. I don't know. I don't know that I would have changed anything, but you can achieve whatever you set your mind to. If you're passionate about it, if you're going to put in the work for it, you can get it.
Right.
And I don't know if it's like that anywhere else in the world, but for me, it certainly happened, and I'm super blessed for it. But we went out, we worked for it, and I've achieved other goals since then that I've set after it, and it's the truth. You can do anything you set your mind to as long as you have dedication, discipline, and focus.
And a solid dopamine hit,
Oh
right?
my god,
Regularly.
it's gotta be fun. If you're not having fun doing it, throw it in the trash.
Exactly. And
Yeah,
and and that's exactly about what yeah.
yeah, and we talked just real briefly about this before too, and part of what's brought you into this podcast is the the episodes that we did with Paul Eric, and we talked like for just a little bit. We don't need to get in depth with it like we did with the other one, but the ADHD thing and like talk about a superpower, right? Because I don't think honestly, like for when I was 22 years old, if that opportunity would have come about, like I'd have been all over it. You know what I mean? For sure. It wouldn't have mattered what position I was in.
Right.
I could have never driven a vehicle before, and I'd be like, let's do this. Let's go. Come on. You got
100%.
if it's feeding, that, if it helps you chase the dopamine, you can do it, and you can do anything. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to have ADHD to chase your dreams and to do whatever you want, but it is amazing how, it just, if you can really hyper focus on something and it's really enjoyable, man, you can really, really dive deep, like Rick and I have with, you know, doing stuff in the backcountry and shooting bows and stuff like that, and so, yeah, just really cool that you were able to utilize that superpower, and so it'll be fun to see kind of what you do in the future, what the next step is for you and where you go from here.
100%. It is a superpower. It's also a disadvantage in a lot of things.
Sure.
It does kind of channel you away from being, I guess, a normal person in a way, right? Like you don't have all the social skills, or you don't maintain the best relationships. There's definitely a cost you pay,
Mm-hmm.
but if you're passionate about something, you kind of obsess over it. You want to be the best. You're doing the research. You're always trying to get that edge over someone else, and that's kind of where we're at. It's very
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
Because you talk about that. I mean, sometimes I feel some of my relationships probably have ended because I was focused on hunt. I was passionate. I'm still am passionate, but my hunting and my archery was just taking over my life as like it was in my mind every day, and sometimes your relationships were taking a hit because you know what I was in the woods all the time trying to
Yep.
catch that catch that moment. Now I try to do it in other ways, and I'm realizing maybe I need to spend a little more time here because I talked to a guy that had roughly had ADHD 2 or whatever, and you know I can go 100. I could go 100% for a whole month, but then you sometimes you start losing the passion because you're doing it every day. And if I took a
Uh,
little break, then that passion comes right back and it's like, I'm back in it, man.
you're you're 100% right. I mean, I'm thankful in a way that off-road racing cannot be done every day. No one can simply afford that. It at best, if you're on three teams in three different series, you're doing it once a month, which is a lot. I've
Mhm.
done that for a couple years, and I've had to take a step back as I did realize it taxed on a lot of other things I was trying to go about. But I mean, yeah, mountain biking, right? I can do that every day. Got into that in February, started doing all the pro trails. I'm kind of bored now. Got into
Yep.
golf, spent a bunch of money, was doing that two, three times a week. Got my handicap, down to like a 13. Yeah, I got over that. So, it's 100%. It can definitely drain you if you are passionate about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Finding that balance is difficult. I'm still trying,
At
and
100%.
it'll always kind of be that way. I've accepted the fact, and I hopefully you know, I have some other people in my life, not you, Rick, but I have some other people in my life that are heavy ADHD, and they're very difficult to deal with. And I'm like, my poor wife,
It's amazing though what a strong woman can do to you. They
right?
can they can put you in check.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely blessed. My fiance, man, she keeps me in line now. We
Yeah,
were I was going on a bit of a wild streak, just doing a bunch of racing, working all the time, and she's calmed me down a little bit. So it's
yeah,
it's definitely a better balance I have.
for sure.
because it's interesting that we see this stuff now because of those stronger. I think it's a stronger independent woman too. For me it is
100%.
because she doesn't. I mean, I go do what I want to do in the aspect she knows in the woods or wherever I'm going to
Yep.
go because she knows that's where I'm going. I'm not going down to the bar to
Right.
stay out at night with the boys. I'm really going out in the woods to set a camera or do this and that. And then I've realized, I can set as many cameras as I want, but it doesn't matter because when hunting season comes, everything changes. So why not spend that time in the summer? I like to
I
still, and actually, she comes with me now occasionally. She's learning. This is my love. We have this kind of funny thing because Mother Nature is my mistress, and she knows that's that's better than having a different mistress. You know what I mean? But
100%. I mean, what I do feels like I'm on drugs, but
yep,
we're not. We're not out drinking. We're not out doing all these other things. And yeah, no, my fiance will come to a few races now. I don't especially like her in Mexico, as that's not something I prefer to worry about, as I'm trying not to die in the
Yeah,
state.
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, but yeah, when I come into a pit and she's there, and then especially if I had like a really frustrating 100 miles, or like me and my driver aren't synced up, or I had to change two flats that he definitely just drove right into like a dick.
Yeah.
It's always nice to have that little reset there, and oh, that's why I do this. Like I'm having fun. She's here. It's awesome.
Yeah, because there's a lot of people that in our like hunting part that they want their wives with them, but you know what? I'm happy my wife doesn't hunt. We need our separation that,
Yes.
I'm going to go do this and this fulfills me. You go do
Yep.
your deal and it fulfills you. We'll meet together and that's the way it
Mhm.
is.
Yeah, you see a lot of dudes that like bring their girls everywhere, like to the golf course, or some even have them ride in race cars with them, or like no, 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 separated. I want a nice dainty girl that isn't into the same stuff. I need separation too, and as long as you respect it and you help me with it, that's all I need.
Exactly. Like I said, Cindy will go. It's funny because she's been with me a few times. Like I said, "Do you want to go see some bulls bugling?" And she came with me. And last year we were up actually taking pictures one evening and watching the sunset and the fall colors here in the Black Hills. And we came out of the woods and it's fall. I didn't have an elk tag last year, but we come out and the elk are bugling and it was just at dusk and she got into like the bulls were fighting 20 or 30 yards from her and she's all excited but I mean she got that excitement and then we went home and someday maybe we'll do that again but it's not that she wants to do it every day now
No,
for me I had my wife with me. I had bulls bugling. I wasn't going to kill anything but that that is like the most she was lucky there was no snow or I might have been chasing her around out in the woods. That's just one of the big aphrodisiacs of my life right there. I'd give her heck
that's
about
good.
that, but it was good, but
That's
I
good.
mean, but if we have, she enjoyed that part, but she doesn't need to be with me all the time. And that's the
No,
good part. And
eh,
it's just fun.
no, 100%. It's sharing something you love with someone you love.
Yep. But
yeah,
but
for
we
sure.
enjoy other things. So
Hmm.
yeah.
Right.
But I have so it's just amazing to be able to chase your dreams. Um, it's interesting because when I look at trophy truck racing, and I think of, I mean, I'm dating myself, not in the Furiosa. I'm talking about the Mel Gibson, Mad Max, uh, kind of stuff. When you watch those vehicles driving through the deserts, and it is just amazing to me to watch you guys do what you're doing like that. But do you have any? You've raced in Mexico. You raced in America, of course. Or do you have any
Mhm.
aspirations to go to maybe Australia, Africa, anything like that?
You know, Australia, no. They're a little stringent over there. They have one off-road race and it's basically a fire road. You drive 80 miles up and back. I think their land management's a little strict on that sort of stuff. But the end goal is Dakar. That's we call the Baja 1000 the Super Bowl, and I can see in a lot of ways that it is the hardest race you could do. It's 1,000 miles straight one day, where Dakar is, I think the longest segment they have is 300 miles in a day. Most of them are around, I think, like 100 to 200, but it's 17 days long. And it's, you're sleeping in the back of cars. There's no nice amenities about it. It's rugged. There is no trail to follow. I mean, you see them going through the dunes, like people are getting hurt all the time. I think, especially as a navigator, that's got to be the toughest form of navigating. I mean, you don't know where you're going. You have a road book and figure it out. So I think that's the end goal. I'm talking to a couple teams currently about it. So that's the goal. I believe they're still racing in South America, I think. But Africa was when it was really popping. Those were the days of the real glory, Dakar. But I believe that got shut down. I want to say when the Taliban was messing with them. It was some
Oh,
sort of terrorist organization, and
Yeah,
trucks were coming back, getting shot up. People, I think they were getting held hostage. Don't quote me on that, but
yeah.
mm,
definitely trucks were getting shot up, and so they moved it to South America. And yeah, I definitely that's the goal.
hmm.
So Dakar got moved to South America.
I believe so. Yes.
So where would that be? Brazil?
They go through multiple countries, I believe.
All right, that's interesting. I didn't know that because I mean, I
You know
think
what? They actually moved it away from there in the past couple years. It's now Saudi Arabia and a couple surrounding countries over there now.
all right
Yeah.
because a few years ago the notoriety came when Robbie Gordon ran Dakar and won that one stage.
Yeah.
I
No,
mean,
as an American, we don't do very well over there. It's not our sport, especially trophy truck drivers. It doesn't really translate. We're used to pounding things, going really fast over stuff you shouldn't be going fast over. And over there, the consequences are a little more elevated when you decide to do stuff like that.
Mm,
so why is that? Is it because it's more it, because what I mean, I just see Baja in Africa as roughly the same depth. I mean, I'm just
I,
saying
I
sand
think
and dirt.
right. I think I mean the cars are completely different. You couldn't take a trophy truck over there. It'd be way too heavy for what you're trying to do. You need something light that can get over those dunes. It's like really light buggies. So
mm,
when Robbie took his Hummer over there, it was just a modified Class 1 car that he races over here.
mm,
And it's hard to do. We're not set up for what they're doing. But all racing is completely different, right? We've seen trophy truck drivers go to NASCAR, hasn't worked out so well. You've watched, Jimmy Johnson come into trophy truck racing, and I think he made it 80 miles before his navigator got out of the car and he had to quit.
mm,
F1 drivers have come into off-road racing. We had Jensen Button a few years ago, and with all due respect to him and his, legacy in F1, I think he was getting lapped by like mid pack guys at the mint, which that's pretty hard to do. So it's just different. We're all different.
Well, and yeah, I can see that as an F1 driver to a NASCAR driver to a trophy truck driver to a go kart racer. I mean, they're totally different
Hmm.
races. It's even trophy truck racing to a motorcycle on the same Baja 1000 is totally different.
100%. And, probably 3 or 4 years back, it was 50-50 if a motorcycle or a trophy truck was going to overall it. So they were doing the same speeds for a lot of years until recently when the all wheel drive started to become a proven platform. Then that's not existent anymore.
Hmm.
But yeah, it is a completely different game for everybody. The motorcycle guys can actually kind of transfer around pretty good. I mean, we've had Toby Price, Dakar winner, come over here and win. He's actually an exceptional trophy truck driver. He just won the Baja 500 and chased us down quite a bit at San Felipe, the race we just won 3 months ago. But yeah,
So, what do you do when you aren't racing and for fun?
I try to hang out. I try not to be busy. That's my biggest thing. I look at my calendar every year, and there's somehow always more races than I had the year before, more time off. Um, and I try to focus on my actual career, trying to take over my dad's pipeline business. That's the end goal, really, is
Mhm.
to overtake him and see this company through. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what's paying for everything. So I can't go get to screw off down in Mexico and have fun with all that without supporting that.
Mhm.
Yep.
Unfortunately, racing takes a lot out of it. I never thought I would be in the position I was in at a professional level, and to be contracted with these teams to have to go take 2 months off a year to go do
Yep.
that. It's a
Mhm.
lot of time.
Mhm.
Yep.
It's not the greatest look when you're the owner's son. So
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
I try to put in a lot of work when I'm home and spend time with the family and yeah, we do a lot of mountain biking. To kind of cross train a little bit, stay in shape. I'm not a big fan of the gym, so I need to stay somewhat relevant with my cardio and whatnot. Golf's always fun if you really want to get aggravated at yourself and play the mental games.
Yep.
Go kart racing with my friends. We go to K1 speed quite a bit, so we could just run our mouths about each other.
Yep.
Yeah, that's kind of what I do.
I was gonna ask, and you covered some of the question that I was gonna get to as far as like, the physical preparation that you do, because a lot of you know the don't die rusty concept, is about physical and mental health. And I think a lot of people probably look at what you do, and correct me if I'm wrong, maybe not, but I feel like a lot of people are, probably think, oh, you just got to be an adrenaline junkie and just be crazy, and you'll do really well. But you talk about, having the pre-runners and doing all that kind of stuff, and you're studying your line. So I feel like, there's a lot more to it than just, all of that. But is there any specific kind of mental preparation that you got to do, like get yourself pumped up before a race, or you know what I mean? Because I can't imagine the anxiety levels got to be super high before a race starts.
Yeah, yeah. So I'll go into the preparation, but to like really explain to people who I don't know, probably a more familiar topic. I mean, I think most people are familiar with Supercross, right? Like dirt bike racing.
Yep.
Hmm.
And you had your Ricky Johnsons and your Jerry McGraths, right? And those guys were getting shit faced after the races. They were partying. They were not peak athletes, right? And that you were still able to be very dominant at that point. You just had to have skill.
Hmm.
And then you see the Ricky Carmichaels step into the picture. People training, people trying. There is no partying. It's a balanced diet, and you watch the sport just evolve overnight with a different level.
Hmm. Yeah.
And that's kind of where off-road racing is now. We just probably in the last 5 years, you're not just some rich dude with a big old belly who's going down to Mexico to drink and eat tacos, and you happen to have the best truck so you can win.
Hmm.
It's not like that anymore. It's people that are very in shape. It's very people that are highly in tuned with businesses and it's a lot of mental warfare you play. So to get in that car and put in a 15-hour day at the Baja 1000, 16-hour day, as you've gotten your body just wrecked going through these bumps and sand washes and
Sure.
getting super jarred. It's not as comfy as it looks in those things.
Yeah.
I hate to break it to anybody out there who sees the videos and it looks like we're floating.
Mm,
No, it hurts. Um, so physical strength is huge. You got to be in shape. You got to have good cardio, and then your mind comes into play. Especially, you're following someone for 200-300 miles in the dust. I mean, you're talking 8 hours, and you're just in blinding dust, and you're frustrated because you can't get around them. There's no lines. The sun's setting. You turn your lights on, and now all the dust is amplified.
mm,
um, your mentality starts to wear. You start making mistakes. You start driving off things. You start driving off cliffs. You start hitting big rocks that cause more downtime. You're not playing it smart. So staying on top of that, making sure you're hydrated, making sure your mind is as strong as it can be. You do a lot of extracurricular things, I guess. And I guess probably the biggest thing for most of us is we're all some way somehow involved pretty heavily in a successful business.
mm-hmm.
um, so I think that kind of translates a lot to it. This is just kind of a chess game for us at this point,
Sure.
something to occupy it.
Mm-hmm.
You'll see people that, and no disrespect to any of these people if they're listening, the good old boys that definitely are the baseline of this sport. They're the backers. They're the ones that keep it going. They're drinking in their garage. They're putting their trucks together with their buddies. It's a casual sport for them. They don't typically make it to that top level. So it's always generally some sort of business owner that is pretty has his wits about him.
No, well, since we were talking about the mental and the physical preparation and stuff, I mean, I see the beating you guys take. I mean,
Yeah.
watching videos and stuff, and that's crazy in itself. I
Yeah.
mean, you're kind of like a strapped-in bull rider. It looks like to me. It's
That's exactly it.
you know
There
because they're not going to kick you. You just get unless you wreck, and then you're just all over. But I mean, it's crazy. It looks like it's going to beat the hell out of you.
it does, and I think maybe we're gonna see a little bit of CT actually come out in this sport. You're getting jarred every second pretty much, and it's a pretty rush full hit, I guess, to keep it light. Just this past March when me and Alan and Pudia, who I'm now navigating for now in the Mason, we overalled the race. We actually just set the new record for the fastest average speed. And San Felipe in Mexico is a very short race. It's only 250 miles, but it's brutal. I don't know. It's 5 foot whoops for 80 miles in a straight line. Like
Jeez.
I closed my eyes a couple times. If I'm honest with you, it's intense.
I believe
And
it.
when you're pushing 100 to 130 miles per hour to get on top of these things for that long, it wears on you. Yeah, where are we going with that? I don't know. It just beats the absolute
It
crap
does.
out of you.
It does.
There you go.
That
And then,
Yeah.
I
and the other question I have to ask is because we were talking about hydration, but how do you eat? How do you pee?
Well, so it's hard in Mexico because you've generally spent 2 weeks prior getting the shit beat out of you pre-running, and then these pre-runners are not race cars unless you're super rich. There's a couple of them out there that do have spare race cars they pre-run in, luckies. But generally, it's not. We're in some kind of form of a race car, but it's not. So it's extra rough, and you're generally not staying hydrated in those things because you're putting in 10, 15 hour days, in them. So it's very tough to stay up on these things. You're super hot in these cars, right? If it's 100 degrees outside, it's probably close to 120, 130 on you after your race suit and the engine and the exhaust is all around you.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we'll get generally like a couple IVs the day before the race to kind of like re-pump ourselves up.
Okay.
And the IVs, they don't, if you guys have taken them, I'm sure you don't really have to pee with them. They kind of get into your
Yeah.
muscles and your bloodstream pretty good. But for eating, no, we won't eat. You'll get sick. You'll throw up. So maybe in the morning, if you have a couple hours to spare, an egg, to kind of just hold you over.
Mhm.
You don't really think about eating. You don't really think about much. On a long race, if we get into a speed zone, where we have to get on the highway and transfer up to the next section, I'll have some of those Cliff shot blocks. You
Yep.
ever like backpack those?
Mm.
Yep.
Pop in a couple of those, get the blood sugar back up, so you're not cranky and grouchy. And then as for drinking, our helmets now, we have these magnetic air pumpers because you can't breathe. So
Yep.
you have to have fresh air system going into your helmet. And now the magnetic ones have little drinker ports in them. And
Mm.
there's a little drinker tube through your air that goes into a bottle. And this system called Fluid Logic, it'll blink on the dash, tells you when you need to drink. You enter all your your height and your weight and stuff, and it tells you when you're supposed to drink. So you'll hit the button till it goes away, and it's gonna put in just enough liquid to not hit your bladder. So
Oh.
that's the way it goes. But we sometimes we still have to pee. We wear like a condom catheter.
Mhm.
It's
Mm.
not like the full medical ones. It's like
Right.
a normal condom you slip on and
Yeah.
you just pee out the car. Uh, if you pee in a pit, sometimes the guys will go down under thinking it's transmission fluid or something, and you'll get a funny look back up, and you're like, "Yeah, sorry." But that's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Because you're
Yeah.
not stopping at a convenience store getting a hot dog and a Coke and
No,
moving. I'm just giving
there
you.
you're strapped in.
Yeah.
You're strapped in, and yeah, no, you're not stopping.
I mean, that's cool. So
Yeah.
do you listen to music or do you listen to
No,
anything? Nothing.
I listen to myself talk.
I don't want
I
to. This is a family. Well, we don't want to go what you might be saying to yourself sometimes.
No, no, no. It's all notes. It's all
Really?
notes. I won't stop talking from the start of the race till the end of the race. If I don't have a note, probably in a speed section, honestly, where there's nothing to call, I'll try to pump up my driver, ask him how he's doing, how's the truck feeling, and you just kind of transitioning to what I do in that car, I guess. I take on a lot of hats, and not to sound cocky or like I'm trying to brag, but I think this is one of the things that has allowed me to rise to the top and be different than everyone else, or at least try to separate myself from a lot of them. Is you got to be a psychiatrist in that car, you got to be a navigator, you got to be a mechanic, and you got to be, I guess, able to really plan out logistics in your head and kind of control that race as the driver. And this is kind of why I stopped driving. Is yeah, you get all the fame and all the glory, you get all the autographs, but you're not really in charge. You're only as good as everyone around you. You can only do what you can do. You got two hands on the steering wheel and a foot, 2 feet on the gas and the brakes. As a navigator, I got to be able to talk him up if he's low or depressed. Maybe he just blew a corner and now he's not driving right, or I got to be able to talk him down when he's being way too hard on the car. We got to go 500-600 more miles. This thing can't break. These things aren't indestructible. Every one of us that can drive can break that truck within 5 miles. If we go as hard as we possibly can, we could break it easily. And so getting all that stuff to live is a big part of what we're doing. And then for the notes, we run rally style notes. I think I probably have the most notes out there. I think there's probably two or three of us that are on that kind of top level. There's definitely some guys that are above me, but there's not a whole lot. And below me, it significantly drops off. So we run rally notes, and it's very hard. Right six, triple caution. Left six over rise, 200, right three. I'm talking constantly.
Mm.
And the hard part about that is, and these rally drivers, they don't really understand how long is a rally stage. 3-4 miles, sometimes what, 20, and then
Yeah.
then you get to have a break, right?
Mm.
Yeah.
I'm doing this for 500 to 1,000 miles.
Wow.
Oh.
There's no break for me. I'm just, I don't, half the time, I don't even know where we're at on race course. Pre-running, yeah, I get to see, where I'm at. I get to plan things out. In the race car, I have no idea. My head is on a GPS screen, and most people can't do that. They'll get sick, Have you ever just tried to watch your phone as your buddy's driving a little recklessly?
Yeah.
Yeah.
People get sick.
Mm.
I am thankful I don't get sick. and you just got to stay on it.
Wow. Yeah. I can't imagine the amount of persistence and just, focus that it would take for such a long
It's
period of time.
That's,
It's
I guess,
just,
another part that separates it too.
yeah,
If I miss,
incredible.
we die. I can't miss.
Oof.
There's some corners, right? If I call it late, oh well, we blow it out a little wide, we go in, maybe we only get a flat tire. But when you're running through the mountains at, 60, 80, 90 miles an hour, and it's, a right one, which means it's super tight. If you go off that, that's 1,000 feet down, you're dying.
Oof.
So
Wow.
don't miss.
No.
And then just to kind of elaborate on a little more,
Yeah.
I get a little bit of special privilege. This is why most navigators can't do it. Is I'm also a driver. I know when I want things called. I know what that braking distance is going to be. I know what the acceleration is going to be. I know what, when he puts weight on the outside and the corner is going to bank to the left, I know what it's going to do. So I know how to phrase my notes, or at least stay ahead of them, to where that driver can feel really, really safe, because I know when I want it called. I'm not going to call it late. I'm not going to call it early. I don't want you to brake too soon. I don't want you to brake too late. It's got to be right on the money. And
Hmm.
typically that's about 3 seconds from when it's going to happen. I'm trying to stay within a 3 second window for 15 hours, right? Yeah.
So
Amazing.
you're taking all these notes. Is the courses like is the Baja 1000 usually the same course or do they change it up?
They change it up every race. I mean, we'll run a lot of the same sections now, right? Like, it's 55 years in the making. There's only so much land that you have. There's only, farmers have a lot of stuff. So there's only so much that's fresh stuff. And we're getting a lot of newer stuff now. We're making a lot of very tight trails, which is kind of a little boring. I like wide open stuff and being able to maneuver. Um, but it's not the same course, right? You'll run a piece of this section from this year, and then we'll run another piece from another section, So it's not like the same, loop or whatever. It does mix up a little bit. So getting those to transfer, and just because you ran this same section 5 months ago, well, it just had a big storm. That's completely new land now. So you got to throw all those notes out, restart again. Maybe in a wash line, this was the fastest way, but when that water came through, now there's big rocks. Now maybe that's not the way now.
Mhm. Wow.
That that is, and then watching other things like when you're driving at night, I mean, how many people hit like a deer or a coyote
A
or
lot,
whatever?
a lot. If you guys, I mean, when we're done with this, if you have a chance, Google my buddy Christian Serapis hits cow at the Parker 425.
Oof.
You want to see something that's going to blow your mind? That video.
I will
That's
do
scary.
that because I saw. I mean, I've seen a few deer hits on in some of the races, or it was an animal. They were going so fast when they hit it. It's hard to tell what it was, but it's just crazy that. And then what else was I going to ask you? Is like the animals and how is it? You know, you're driving at night, and that the navigator really has to take the pressure on then, wouldn't you? Is it more pressurized in the I shouldn't say pressurized, but do you have more pressure in the day or the night? Because you can't see your surroundings at all then.
It's it's subjective. I In the daylight, you can see everything, right? Well, that's sometimes not a great thing. You can be easily distracted by the scenery, by the different roads. You may look up over the horizon and there's five different lines, and you're thinking, what do you do? At night, your lights are focused on only what's in front of you. So everything else is blacked out. It's tunnel vision. So eh, in some regards, it's easier at night in that way because you're not worried about everything else. I mean, you might be beside a 500-foot cliff, but you don't know, you know. Um,
I hear you.
but then when it comes to dust, obviously dust is exceptionally hard to see. It's one of the biggest challenges in our sport. No amount of skill is going to be able to make you magically see through dust. But at night, it hangs there. And when you have these bright LEDs, pushing 100,000 lumens, it really amplifies it, and it makes it harder to see. So when that dust line in the day, maybe you can't get to his bumper, but you can see about 200 feet back. At night, that turns into 1,000 feet with just those little bit of particles still hanging there. It's just amplified like a wall.
Mm.
I've seen videos and those people trying to take pictures when you're going over the jump and they're right in the middle of frickin' road. It just is like that is nuts to me. Like,
It's one of the most dangerous parts of our sport, and it's not anything any of us look forward to. It's obviously very awesome down in Mexico to be that close to the fans, and seeing them get fired up when you come through. But it's also very dangerous, right? They start drinking a little early on race day. They're not sometimes the smartest. They want to touch the truck as they go by. They want the closest photo. And a big misconception for them is they think we're in control. We're not. We have 1,200 horsepower underneath us on 40-inch tires on dirt. It doesn't stick. It doesn't stop. It doesn't turn. That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
And sometimes their reaction time isn't the best, and it does happen. It's unfortunate. It
yeah,
happens more often than it should down there. Um, but that's Mexico. It's what honestly keeps you kind of coming back in a way too. Like that danger, like we're talking about the adrenaline. There's nothing more exhilarating than barely making it, right? Barely getting around someone, barely, surviving
oh
something.
yeah,
So it's not great, but it's free. It's wild. It's the Wild West.
Yeah.
and it looks like it because I watch those videos of these guys that are, and then I see the ruts after you make the jump, and those ruts that are there. You don't. I mean, I'm not a Baja racer, but I pretended to be one at one time, but I wasn't even going as. I was going 20, and your guys are going 100. You feel like a Baja racer, but you get caught in a rut. You don't know where you're going to go,
No,
and this. I mean, it's funny. You talk mountain biking, but I'm a Tour de France fan, and those guys are right along the road. You're just going to tip over a biker. You're not going to get killed. And you know what I mean? And that's
no,
just crazy stuff.
Yeah.
it's.
It's wild.
The technology is getting better for us. Obviously, we're on 40-inch tires. We've got 32 inches of suspension travel. We've got a lot of horsepower that can get out of a lot of bad situations. We're in an all-wheel drive truck that can pull you out of a lot of bad situations. But no, we don't have complete control over these things. You can't. You're on dirt. It's not asphalt. The terrain's forever changing. Whether we hit a silt pocket and we can't see, and we may have pre-run this 5 6 times over, but when I can't see, I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Why do you? Because I saw that. What? Why do you prefer 32-inch of travel? Uh,
um that's kind of the standard. You don't want much more than that. Maybe at one point in the future we'll be able to handle more, but too much travel is also a bad thing because then your vehicle's always on the ground.
it's gonna.
It's too lopey.
Yep.
32 inches of rear and 26 in the front is typically standard for a trophy truck, and that seems to be the sweet spot in balancing where these things are. I'm not a trophy truck builder. I'm not going to pretend to be. I don't know why it works. Like Joe Dirt's mom says, "Why does the sun rise?" It just does.
It just does. Yeah.
That's how I look at it.
so,
Oh, love that.
so
Love bringing Joe Dirt into it. That's all.
Life's a garden. Dig it, make it work for you.
That's right.
well, since we're on movie quotes, then what baby Jesus do you like? What Jesus do you like? The baby Jesus, the
I like my Jesus front row at a Leonard Skinner concert, and I'm hammered drunk singing lead vocals to Leonard Skinner.
Yeah, good.
All right. So no, Ricky and I get on this, and we are so lucky to talk to so many different people.
Yeah.
I'm learning about. I mean, I watch it on TV. I don't. know. I mean, we're so lucky to be able to talk to you, and I say that would be fun to do or fun to see, and then I watch more videos and I go, I don't need to. I'd like to ride along. I don't know if I'd want to drive, stuff like that.
You know what? It's funny you say that because we have the same argument in our own heads and we're doing it. Every race when I'm in that thing and I'm getting the absolute shit beat out of me and I'm tired, I'm grumpy, it's hot, I haven't eaten, I'm dehydrated. I just changed a freaking tire that took me way too long, I'm in the sand dust, all covered up, I'm covered in oil and grease. I'm thinking too, why the hell do I do this? I hate this. This sucks. And then
Yep.
you get home and you're like, boys, when we going back? Like that was awesome.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So that's what we wrestle with.
it is. In because like hunting wise, if I messed up on a stalk on an animal, we'll just say, or and I come home and you're down and depressed, and then you're going, when am I going back? And
Or you got an elk. You got an elk on your back, and you're 10 miles back there, and you're 5 miles in, and you're like dying, and then
100%.
you realize you got to make 5 more of those trips or 6
Yep.
more of those trips, and you're like,
Yep.
what am I doing? Or I can't tell you how many times I've been in the Boundary Waters, and I'm hucking my canoe, on a portage, and I've got a
I've
60-pound portage pack on. I'm like, what? I
100%. I get it. You're out chucker hunting up in the freaking hills. You're hiking up those
yeah,
things, hoofing it. You don't see anything. Why the hell are we doing it?
Yeah.
When are we going back?
Yeah, it's the
exactly.
struggle. It's the struggle that we've talked about this so many times. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
What did Dar say? She said the struggle, or things wouldn't be good without the struggle, right?
exactly.
100%.
And you're mountain biking, and I'd rather go hiking because I like to look around. If I mountain bike, I would have probably a tree in my head or a limb anyway. Because
Ass over
I
tea
mean,
kettle.
yeah, because I mountain biked around here, but I'm just saying I'd like to concentrate on where I'm driving, not where. But I like to look around, so that's my problem. But your mountain biking and your other stuff has to help mentally, just because you can be free again in some aspects.
No,
And
that's 100% right.
you know, but it would be fun. Like I said, I would love just to go ride along with you one day, just to see what it's kind of like. And because here's the deal: we live once, and I want to experience as much as I can. Like my shirt says, "Every man dies, not every man lives," and I think if you don't experience everything you can, I mean, I've jumped out of a plane, I've done other things, and I may not go do it again, but I got to do it once.
No, that's 100% it, and I think that's what keeps us coming back. We got to feel alive. No one wants to just be a bump on the log, sit on your couch, watch TV. No good stories come over that. Nothing good is going to happen from that. I want stories that are going to impress the entire group around the campfire.
Yeah.
Because, and I mean, I've had this discussion with a few friends. The best plans, and when everything is planned and it goes right, then that's less of an adventure, because when you have to make up for something that's gone wrong. Now that's fun.
I, that's 100% it, and I love winning. That's all I care to do in life is just win. That's the only thing that keeps me going.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're having a pre-run and you're up, in the Mike's Mountains and down in Mexico, and there's no cell phone reception, and there's stuff out there that'll eat you, and you happen to rip a corner of a car off at the middle of the night, and you got to figure out how you're going to get this thing out of here with no service, no tools, no nothing. Those stories last forever,
Yeah,
They
man.
do.
Yep.
and it makes you sure feel good when you get out.
And it is that adrenaline rush of how are we going to do this, and once you have this, because I've been in many places, because that's just who I am. I get into some bad predicaments and then I figure my way out. But the best part is either you see camp or you see light, because you're getting close to home, or
Yep.
wherever. But I mean, that is the best part for the brain too, and for your life, because you've accomplished something that you didn't think you could at sometimes or whatever else. And I love talking to people that love adventure.
No, that's it. That's everything.
But I mean, I mean, I try to put up pictures of sunrises, and I try to keep people, I mean, you see some of my stuff that I put up, and I try
Mhm.
to keep people thinking about the good life. And like, we can't take, this is why I think you should live your life to the fullest and live the adventures, is because we only get this one chance in life. And when you find that peace and that purpose and that uh, that thing that keeps you wanting to feel alive, that's what you should take on. I don't care if you're a actor, or I don't care if you're a racer, a hunter, or a dancer, or whatever you want to be, a bike rider, a bull rider, whatever makes you happy and makes you feel alive. But what is the good life to Kyle Kraft?
The good life. I, I don't know. I mean, I, I'm living it. I'm living it. I don't know how else to say it. Like, I've got everything I've ever wanted. I've got new goals that I'm constantly hitting. I'm very fortunate. I'm living it. I'm living the dream I had when I was younger. I'm happy. I think we're being very successful over here. We've got a great business. I've got great friends. I think I'm living the life. The ultimate goal is to be sitting around uh, my house somewhere out in maybe Montana, South Dakota, on my porch with my grandkids, and telling them about these days. I think that's it right there. I'm doing it, and I can't wait to get to that point and pass all these memories on, and hopefully inspire people and get more people out there to do what they really want to do. Don't just follow the system. Don't just do what you're told. Go do what you want.
Yeah, man. I love that.
I do too, because
Yeah.
that's what we're hoping to get through with the "Don't Die Rusty" mentality. Because there's so many people that say, "I wish I could have done that," and they don't go do it because whatever stops them. And that's when we were talking in the beginning of this. I think that's where I'm lucky, and I think you're lucky, and Ricky too. But we have wives that support our dreams as well as us supporting theirs, and we don't need to be together to go do that, because you're fulfilling your little section of your heart with what you want to do, and she's doing the same and whatever. But that's where "Don't Die Rusty" keeps on saying, get off the couch and go do it. Don't talk about it, let's do the walking. You know
Yep.
what I mean? And that's why I love talking to people like you who are successful, and other people that keep on pushing yourselves forward to be the better you the next day after the next day after the next day. And and it's funny, most people, when we ask what's the best life to them, they always seem to end up with the relationships they have in their life, like friends and stuff like that. And I'm glad to see people see that stuff, that there's more than just me who is creating me, it's the surrounding people.
You can have all the success in the world, but if you don't have anyone to share it with, what's it worth?
Exactly.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
and
man.
who are you going to share your stories with? I mean, here's a funny thing, and I'm not everybody, Ricky to, I have like, I mean, I'll say 10 good friends. Well, most people though, but I have 10 good friends that, like, those predicaments we were talking about, how are you getting out of this mess? Now everybody know knows that, or they think that that's who I am anyway, because I always seem to get in that mess. Like, it's just funny how that happens. We
I,
were at Total Archery Challenge 2 weeks ago now, and I put on some Protect Zinc on my face because it was sunny out, and I'm walking around. I didn't realize that it didn't go into my skin, so I'm walking around with a white face. And they said, does Rick know that, or is he just doing it? And they just assumed I was doing it, and I really didn't know that.
Yeah, we're all looking at him, and somebody goes, "What's he got going on there?" I was like, he's just being goofy. And then later on, he's like, "Yeah, I forgot to rub it in, or I didn't rub it all the way in." I was like,
Never let them know your next move, Rick. Always
Yeah.
keep them
Yeah.
guessing.
There
But
you
that's just,
go. But
and the common phrase is, "That's just Rick," right? Like that's what we
yeah,
all say. That's just Rick. So we're not shocked when he's doing, so we just assume he's goofing around because he's always so playful. But
yeah, yep.
That's what it's about.
yeah,
But and it is. It's about living life, and I'm glad to. Like I said, I feel I love talking to people that are living their lives to their best, and if we can inspire anybody else to that's what Don't Die Rusty is about, is living your life to the best and keep on moving forward and never die rusty. Keep on moving.
That's
Wear out, don't
that's
rust
everything.
out.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
everything.
Yeah, man. I think it's incredible that you're young, you're an entrepreneur. You've seen so many things that men maybe in their 60s or 70s, haven't done as much as you have up to this point. And I just think it's great. Thanks for being on the episode. Thanks for not
Oh,
dying
thank you guys for
rusty.
having me.
It was a blast talking with you and just learning all the little quirks, right? Like you have a, a a bag that you can pee in when you're driving, and just all those little tiny details that people don't think about, and there's so much more to you and to you guys and everything that you put in, and you work hard. You're professionals for a reason. It didn't just come to you. You work hard, and it translates into other things like starting a business.
Yep.
And all of those kinds of things. And so you're a great role model for a lot of young men and women as well. And thanks for just being awesome, man. Appreciate you.
Thank you guys so much for having me. I really do appreciate it. Thank you for the invite. Your show with Paul did inspire me, man. I love it. I love the Don't Die Rusty theme. I don't think enough people are living that, and I just hope we can get more people to do it. And I hope I get a chance to come back on and we could dive into some more details about it. I know it's kind of a little just over the surface, but to finish it off, I don't think you're going to have to come down to California to hop in one of these trucks, and I'll leave it at that. I think we got some things coming up in Spearfish. Me and Paul are going to work on, so
Cool.
we'll see you guys out there.
Yeah, man.
Well, and then we'll have all four of us get together, and
There we
then
go.
the directions
go.
might go everywhere. Like there's going to be stops all over.
Good luck keeping the conversation on one point.
Yeah, right. Yeah. What happens when you put 4 ADHD people in the same building?
Exactly. Yeah. We better do this in the winter so we don't have butterflies flying around or squirrels or anything like that. We'll be inside.
Awesome, guys.
Well, thank you so much, and we appreciate you. So, and let's get together, and when Paul, that'd be awesome. I think that'd be one fun conversation.
I agree. Let's get it together and make it happen.
We will do that. So I want to just say thank you, Don't Die Rusty Nation, for listening, and keep on chasing your dreams. And of course, don't die rusty.
Have a great day, everybody.